So, why do millions of people get drawn into these huge, all-encompassing conspiracy theories? Look, today we're not here to prove or disprove anything. Instead, we're going to try and pull these ideas apart to really understand why they're so powerful and what makes them tick. All right, let's get into it.
I know. It's a completely wild question, right? But believe it or not, this is one of the most famous claims out there in the whole world of modern conspiracies. And if we really want to get our heads around the big picture, well, you've got to start with a really specific, really strange example.
And look, this isn't just some random meme or an internet joke, no way. For millions of people, this is a core belief. It's a central part of this huge, sprawling worldview that's been popularized by figures like David Icke, who's built an entire global following on this exact idea.
So that really gets us to the heart of what we're digging into today. I mean, where does an idea this out there even come from? And maybe the more important question is, why is it so compelling? What makes it stick for so many people?
To figure that out, we've got to uncover the recipe, so to speak, for what we could call a modern super conspiracy. Because these things aren't just random ideas. They're actually built, assembled from some very specific ingredients into a kind of modern mythology. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down that recipe piece by piece.
All right, so let's kick things off with maybe the most famous face of this whole phenomenon.
You really have to understand David Icke's journey to get this. I mean, he was a professional soccer player, then a mainstream TV sports host. But in 1991, everything changed. He went on this hugely popular TV show, Wogan, and declared he was the son of the Godhead. He was absolutely ridiculed for it, became a national laughingstock. But here's the twist. For his followers, that ridicule didn't discredit him. It did the opposite. It became his martyrdom as a brand, proving he was a brave truth-teller, willing to stand up to the establishment.
Okay, but here's the thing. As influential as Icke is, he didn't just invent this whole way of thinking out of thin air. No, he was actually building on a very specific blueprint, a template that was laid out before he ever came along. So first, we need to get a key term on the table, the super conspiracy. Now, this isn't just your standard single-issue conspiracy theory, like who was really behind the JFK assassination. A super conspiracy is something much bigger. It's a master theory, a grand story that claims to connect everything. We're talking aliens, secret societies, political scandals, you name it, and weaves it all into one single massive plot.
And the guy who really engineered that modern blueprint, it was Milton William Cooper. And get this, in 1991, the very same year David Icke had that infamous TV moment, Cooper published his book, Behold a Pale Horse. And this book, it basically became the Bible for this new, all-encompassing style of thinking.
So what was Cooper's big move? Well, his single most important innovation was this really crucial shift in the narrative. You see, the old paranoia was that the government was engaged in a cover-up. They were hiding the truth about aliens from us. But Cooper flipped the script entirely. He said it wasn't a cover-up, it was complicity. The government wasn't just hiding the truth, it was actively colluding with evil aliens against the human race. And that, as you can imagine, is a much, much darker story.
Okay, so we've got the modern face of the theory in David Icke, and we've got the modern architect in Milton William Cooper. But where did Cooper get his ideas from? It's time to peel back yet another layer of this recipe.
It turns out the core ideas here are actually ancient. I mean, you can literally trace the intellectual DNA of this stuff all the way back almost 2,000 years to a group called the Gnostics. From there, it winds its way through 19th century occultism with theosophy, then gets a modern twist in the 70s with the ancient astronaut theory, and finally, Cooper comes along and just brilliantly stitches all these different threads together.
And this is wild. The basic template for the story is almost a perfect match for what the ancient Gnostics believed. They thought that a flawed, lesser god, the demiurge, created the material world as a prison, and this prison was run by his cosmic jailers, the archons. The only way out? To achieve gnosis, or secret divine knowledge. Now look at the modern version. It's the exact same structure. You've got malevolent alien controllers instead of a demiurge, the global elites as the archons, the matrix as the prison world, and awakening as the new gnosis. It's basically an ancient idea with a new sci-fi skin.
So what about the other ingredients in our recipe? Well, you've got theosophy from the late 1800s, which threw in the whole idea of a secret history of humanity, complete with hidden masters and lost continents like Atlantis.
Then, fast forward to 1976, Zecharia Sitchin's ancient astronaut theory did something really important. It took ancient myths and reframed them as history. He basically turned spiritual gods into flesh and blood aliens, the Anunnaki, who he claimed genetically engineered humans to be their slave race.
Okay, so we've seen the ingredients, we've looked at the recipe. But that brings us to what is maybe the most critical question of all. Why do people find this stuff so compelling? What deep fundamental human needs does a story like this actually satisfy?
When you really get down to it, these narratives are so powerful because they tap into some really deep-seated needs. Think about it. In a world that feels chaotic and random, where trust in authority is at an all-time low, this gives you a single story that explains everything. It takes that feeling of being small and powerless and transforms it into something epic. And crucially, it offers you a clear path to becoming powerful yourself. All you have to do is awaken to the truth.
And that's really the bottom line. The source material for this explainer puts it perfectly. These stories provide psychological comfort and a clear narrative of struggle between good and evil. In a confusing world full of gray areas, they give you a simple black and white story. And the best part? In that story, you're not just a bystander. You get to be one of the good guys, one of the heroes fighting the darkness.
All right, for our last section, let's look at what might be the most brilliant part of their design. It's the structural feature that makes these theories so incredibly resilient, so bulletproof that they're almost impossible to argue against.
You see, their true power isn't just in the story itself. It's in the way the story is built. From the ground up, these theories are designed to be what's called unfalsifiable. And what that means is, you can't prove them wrong. It's literally impossible.
Here's how that closed, self-validating loop works. First, something happens in the world. Whatever it is, it gets folded right into the conspiracy narrative. Then, let's say some evidence comes out that totally contradicts that interpretation. Well, that's not a problem for the theory. That contradictory evidence is just reframed as disinformation, proof that the evil conspirators are trying to cover their tracks and discredit the truth-tellers. So you see what happens? The very evidence that should disprove the theory ends up becoming even more proof for it.
And that right there, that's the ultimate appeal. Inside this perfectly sealed dome, there are no loose ends. There's no uncertainty. Everything makes perfect sense. Everything is proof. It offers a kind of absolute certainty that, in a really messy and confusing world, can be one of the most seductive things of all.
Which really leaves us with one final and much bigger question to think about. See, these super conspiracies, they really thrive in a climate of collapsing trust. Trust in our institutions, trust in the media, trust in our shared stories. So as that trust continues to erode, the real question for all of us isn't really about shape-shifting lizards or secret cabals. It's about this. In that void, what stories are we going to choose to believe in to make sense of our world?